Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel and to the final episode of the Satisfactory Achievement Run. First, let's start with a new quick and dirty power factory on this near pristine lake forest area. Doesn't it just call for concrete, metal and oil processing? As an intermediary note, we are starting with just diluted fuel production, and we will change it to turbo fuel and eventually to rocket fuel as we progress. But if we look at the power consumption, the maximum amounts are nearly touching. This is really not a concern, as the actual power usage is nowhere near that, and it never will be, with the way I've been setting things up. I still consider my power infra to be quite stable. If the actual consumption goes below, say, 2 gigawatts of power produced, then I will begin to worry, and even then I have a battery backup to help in keeping the power infra working. After setting up the basic fuel production, I brought in coal and sulfur to make compacted coal and slowly turned the facility to work on turbo fuel. We also have a nitrogen setup already done here, and we are starting to turn the turbo fuel production into rocket fuel. The final look at the area. As you can see, we have a lot of fuel generators over here, and we are not even burning all of the fuel or turning it all to ionized fuel. This is mostly all just burning rocket fuel here. This clip is also from the endgame, so we also have an alien power augmenter here. Let's have a look at the Megafactory floor, which will help us in getting to Phase 4 and eventually to clear Phase 5 as well. We have a large building area over here. On the edges we have trim ports. These are connected to buffer modules and to 2 sushi conveyor belts and to 4 pipes, which circle the build area and provide parts and liquids to production buildings in the middle of the area. There is also 1 drone port in the middle. This transports goods to the space elevator and its specialized production buildings. The idea behind the Megafactory was that I could have materials circling the building area, and with smart splitters I could call the parts I need from the sushi belts to the production buildings. Should I need to change the recipe, it would be a simple case of changing the smart splitter settings and the recipe on the production building itself. It sounds easy, it isn't. I feel that the sushi belts might get clogged, and so they did. Multiple times. I was also unable to provide enough certain items, so some production buildings starved for parts. This whole thing just complicated things way too much. In short, do not build something like this. Not worth the time. I do think that this could work, but you would have to do some very careful calculations for it to truly work, and then you lose all the benefits a system like this could have, meaning the ability to change production priorities on the fly when the demand for certain items increases. Another huge issue was the drones and their fuel. It is really expensive to run the drones, especially so many of them over here, so one needs to be able to build a high amount of drone usable fuel. Initially I was making batteries here, but I eventually moved to nuclear and plutonium fuel. This was simply because nuclear power is the most efficient fuel source in the game. Anyway, thanks to our Megafactory, or despite its many flaws, we were able to finish Phase 4. The space elevator has been moved to be on top of a small stream running through the desert. It is on a raised platform, allowing trucks to drive below it. On both sides of the building we have huge unfinished blocks of a building. These are unfinished even to this day, despite me already finishing up the game. On the northern excuse of a factory we have a drone port so that we can bring in parts from the mega base. The copper sheet factory was one of the first permanent factories I built. It is just south of the hub building. It receives copper from a normal copper node. The factory turns the copper ore into 135 copper sheets per minute. In the back we have an access point for a train transport, so we can move the copper sheets from here to elsewhere. On the other side there is a sink for any excess parts. A small side room holds a storage container for the copper sheets. The factory floor is actually in 2 levels. On the second level in the back there are 9 smelters. These produce ingots for the constructors that are in the front and in the first floor. Below these floors we have an extra maintenance level that hides most of the conveyor belts. The Modular frame factory is in the same place. Before we were producing all the iron items here, but now we are concentrating on modular frames with this factory. We are producing 20 modular frames per minute. We are sinking 280 screws per minute and 10 to 20 iron plates depending on whether we are moving 10 of them to the depot. So on the lower level we have the smelter room with 20 smelters. The iron ingots are transported to the second level or to the adjacent room with 10 constructors. On the west room there are 3 assemblers working on reinforced iron plates. The second floor has another set of constructors and assemblers working on the screws, iron plates and reinforced iron plates. The model frame production from the previously mentioned production lines also happens on this level. On the northern part of the factory we have a conveyor bridge leading to a steel and heavy modular frame factory. This factory never got the walls and roof built, so I'm not showcasing that. There is also a sink on the northern side of the factory for any excess parts. This area was originally producing rotors. It is now producing 10 motors and 2 smart plates per minute. Everything is on the single floor with conveyor belts running under the floor on a maintenance level. Joined to this factory is the next building, which produces iron pipes, iron plates and reinforced iron plates. These are all transported via a conveyor bridge to the previous factory for the smart plate and motor production. The compacted coal factory is connected to a higher tech factory. First, let's have a close look at the only floor of the compacted coal factory. It is producing close to 250 compacted coal and 60 black powder per minute. The coal is produced in situ, with sulfur being brought with a conveyor bridge to the area. The only floor on this factory has 5 assemblers. One of them is producing the black powder and the rest are working on compacted coal. Connected to the smaller factory we have a bigger building that is working on higher tech parts. The building is connected to the railroad and we are bringing items from the quartz crystal and copper sheet factory and from the small factory below the railroad. Next to the railroad we have access points to higher levels of the factory. Here we are producing 3.333 computers and 7.5 high-speed connectors per minute. This is the southern access point to the factory. On the northern side doors, which are inside the compacted coal factory, we have an AI limiter production facility that is producing a net of nearly 18 AI limiters per minute with the help of quickwire that we are producing in situ as well. On the higher level, we are producing a net of 3.02 crystal oscillators as well. Some of these are fed to the higher levels that make the computers and high-speed connectors. The end products are either sent to a dimensional depot, to the space elevator, or with a drone to the Megafactory. Let's move to the cable factory. The factory is located to the east of the hub area. It is producing 140 cables per minute and the factory is built on 2 floors. The first floor has the smelters and the cable constructors. The second floor is dedicated to constructors working on wire production, which goes back to the first floor for the cable production. Last, we have the wire factory. We are making 480 wire per minute, and this could be upgraded to 600 by changing the Mark IV belts to Mark V. The wire is either transported to the Megafactory with drones or synced. The factory is organized into 3 levels. The first level has the smelters, and the other 2 levels are filled with constructors working on the wire. We have a train track from the quartz and silica production facility coming south to our motor smart plating station. It then goes to pick up copper sheets and drop off the motors and smart plates in the space elevator station. Then the train goes to the other end station to drop all items off and to pick up concrete. The concrete is then dropped to the heavy modular frame factory, and then the empty train returns to the quartz factory. As I expanded the Megafactory and added more drone ports, the whole logistics system collapsed as I was not producing enough batteries to power the drones. And when the drones that provide vital parts for the battery production don't work, the whole Megafactory stalls. So I started experimenting with nuclear power. I had never touched this building line before. We can produce uranium fuel units and use them in the drones. The good part about this is that we are not producing nuclear waste that way. It is not the most efficient fuel source. The better option is to use plutonium fuel rods. To do that, we need to burn the uranium fuel rods in a nuclear power plant and produce nuclear waste. That we can enrich to produce the plutonium and burn the plutonium fuel rods on the drones as well. It would be a lot better to have this part of the factory as far away from everything else, but for now it is good enough for me. Any radiation exposure over here will be rather short. Of course, the main reason for finally experimenting with uranium was to get the MAM research, the nuclear Nobelisk, done. To the north of the Megafactory, we have a smaller but rather large area dedicated to Ficsmas and its products. Because I don't care about kittens, puppies, and humanity. We will open our presents, despite what Ada thinks. The Ficsmas tree is finally getting finished here, so let's have a quick look at what we got from the event. So over here we have the Christmas land, where we have the Christmas trees producing presents on the edges of the area. As they do not require power, we can technically have an infinite amount of these. All power lines here have been changed to Christmas lights. In the center, we have production buildings that produce the different Ficsmas parts for the event. With the Ficsmas parts, we can build the snow dispenser, the snow cannon, large candy canes, snowmen, Christmas wreaths, and the giant Christmas tree. We can also create special ammunition for the Nobelisk detonator, the snowballs, and the fireworks. We also have the Christmas calendar, which was a hunt for the hidden numbers on the calendar picture. A very nice activity to do, honestly. I actually very much like the effect of the snowballs and the rockets. The sound and explosion of rockets is very much spot on in my opinion.
Six, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff.
The final phase was finished as I was waiting for the Fixit coupons to accumulate. To celebrate, I decided to shoot some fireworks. I may have been a little excessive with these. The alien power matrix was the last research item on the MAM list. Now, with that done, all the MAM research is finished. Speaking of the power augmenter, I was greatly disappointed by it. You get a 10% increase to your power production. This might be huge if you are turning as much oil and coal to power as possible, but for me it was only a 4.9 gigawatts of extra power. With the alien power matrix, you can increase this to 30%, but that still isn't much considering the amount of summer sloops you need to spend here. With those summer sloops, I could be creating more fuel and just burn that. If I had more power generators, this could be useful though. And finally, we have enough Fixit coupons to buy the golden nut. I want to place this next to the space elevator as there's a nice spot for it, but before I do it, I want to celebrate this event with fireworks. And it is so tiny. I was expecting a large pillar-sized statue to place on the ground. This was honestly quite disappointing. Oh well. And that concludes the episode. I managed to get most of my goals completed. The only one that I did not complete was making the actual factories. A lot of my factories are again unfinished. They could still be finished, but I simply see no reason to spend more time on this level and on this run. I have enough of a burnout going on as it is, and plenty of other games to play. I think there are still things to do in the game, so I will not rule out not playing this game in the future. But for now, it is time to start playing something completely different. Thank you all for watching, and bye for now.